Let's go Dolphins! What if I told you that the decisions made in the coming weeks could define the next decade for the Miami Dolphins? What if I told you that behind the scenes, powerful voices within the organization are divided, tension is rising, and what's about to happen isn't just a coaching evaluation, but a real power struggle that could change everything? Because that's exactly what's happening right now in Miami. There are deep discussions going on about the future of head coach Mike McDaniel and quarterback Tua Tagovailoa. And I'm not just talking about rumors. I'm talking about information coming directly from the top. And it's having a huge impact. Now is not the time to stand idly by. It's time to get involved. Because what's happening behind the scenes is more intense than most fans realize. But before I reveal everything to you, before we talk about the future of McDaniel, Tua, and the impressive list of candidates already considered to replace them, do me a little favor. Click the like button if you're a true Miami Dolphins fan and want to see this team finally win in January. And if you followed the Dolphins through thick and thin, leave a comment below. Go Dolphins! We're ready for the next era. Now let's dive into this bombshell update. You won't believe what's coming. Ian Rappaport dropped a bomb on NFL Network before the Dolphins-Commanders game. According to his intel, Dolphins owner Stephen Ross wants to keep Mike McDaniel as head coach. But, and this is a major but, it all hinges on how the players respond to McDaniel down the stretch. This isn't just about XS and OS anymore. It's about leadership, locker room unity, and trust. Rappaport made it clear, if McDaniel stays, Tua Tagovailoa is likely staying too. Their fates are officially tied. You keep one, you keep the other. You lose one, you likely lose both. Now, that might not surprise Dolphins fans who've been following closely. But what's really stirring the pot is the belief that McDaniel might be holding this team back, even in games they're winning. Case in point, the win over Washington and Madrid. The Dolphins beat the Commanders, but let's be real, it wasn't because of McDaniel's brilliance. In fact, it might have been in spite of him. Some of the late-game play calling raised eyebrows across the league. The decision to run a pistol zone with Devon Achane on 3rd and goal from the 1? Questionable at best. Why not just smash it up the middle with Alec Ingold, a bruiser built for exactly that situation? Even worse were the timeouts McDaniel called in the final minute, giving Washington a chance to march into field goal range. If not for a missed 55-yard attempt by one of the NFL's most unreliable kickers, Matt Gay, who, by the way, has since been released, this could have ended in disaster. And this isn't a one-off concern. It's becoming a pattern. Here's the reality. The Dolphins are still playing hard for McDaniel, and that counts for something. But being a likable coach and being a championship-caliber coach are not the same thing. This team is too talented to settle for mediocrity. If Miami wants to win playoff games, and we're talking real wins, not just wild card cameos, McDaniel might not be the guy to get them there. Now let's shift the focus to Tua. His future is as tangled in this web as McDaniel's. And it's not a pretty picture. Even though fans are growing skeptical, the financial side of this situation is a mess. Cutting Tua before June 1st? That would hit the Dolphins with a record-breaking $99.2 million in dead cap. After June 1st, it still leaves a brutal $67.4 million charge and messes with the 2027 books. Translation, unless you find a miracle trade partner, Tua isn't going anywhere next season. But who's trading for a quarterback with his injury history, declining accuracy, and inability to perform under pressure when the pocket breaks down? No sane franchise would. That leaves the Dolphins with one realistic path. Ride it out for another year and reevaluate in 2027. That's where McDaniel becomes useful, for now. If you have to live with Tua for another season, McDaniel might be your best bet to make it work. He knows the system. He knows the QB. He can squeeze the most out of Tua's capabilities. But, and this is key, if the Dolphins fail to elevate next year, if they fall short again in the playoffs, then that's it. No more excuses. That's when the reset button gets slammed. Which brings us to the bigger picture, hiring the right GM. This is possibly the most critical decision of Stephen Ross's tenure as an owner. The next GM won't just draft players and negotiate contracts. He'll decide McDaniel's fate. He'll steer the franchise's identity. And after a decade of mixed results under Chris Greer, the margin for error is gone. This hire has to be perfect. The timing has never been more critical. If the Dolphins do decide to pull the plug on Mike McDaniel this offseason, the search for his replacement becomes the next monumental task. And let me tell you, there are already names circulating that could completely reshape the Dolphins' future, starting with a familiar face from the AFC East, Robert Saleh. Saleh, now the defensive coordinator with the San Francisco 49ers, might be the most intriguing candidate on the table. He was handed a raw deal in New York by a GM who gave him Zach Wilson and a broken Aaron Rodgers. Yet despite that disaster, his defense has consistently performed at a high level. He drafted well, coached hard, and commanded respect. He's a leader of men, the kind of voice the Dolphins locker room might desperately need if they're pivoting away from McDaniel's laid-back, offensive-minded approach. Now picture this. Saleh comes in, the Dolphins build a top-tier defense around him, and pair him with an innovative offensive coordinator who knows how to scheme up plays for a quarterback like Tua, or whoever the long-term guy ends up being. That's not just a reset. That's a new era. Then there's Mike McCarthy, the former Packers and Cowboys coach. He might not be flashy, but he brings consistency, playoff experience, and a blueprint that works. He's not an elite-tier tactician, but what he lacks in fireworks, he makes up for in structure and culture. After years of instability, that might be exactly what the Dolphins need. Vance Joseph is another name climbing the ranks. Currently orchestrating a sensational defensive resurgence in Denver, Joseph has the kind of humility and resilience that speaks volumes. He was fired as the Broncos head coach, then swallowed his pride and returned to the same organization as a defensive coordinator, and is now thriving. That kind of character can't be overlooked. With Joseph, like Saleh, you'd get a defensively strong, emotionally intelligent leader who knows how to build through youth and free agency. And speaking of building, how about a nod to Dolphins' legacy? Chris Shula, the grandson of Don Shula, is making waves as the Rams' defensive coordinator. He's not riding the coattails of his name. This guy has climbed the ranks, grinding through college and pro levels, and has the Rams' defense exceeding expectations. It would be poetic to see the Shula name back in Miami, especially if he's the one to finally bring playoff wins back to Hard Rock Stadium. Another rising star is Jesse Minter, the Chargers DC and a product of the Harbaugh coaching tree. He's worked under both John and Jim Harbaugh, including during Michigan's national title run. That tree has produced some of the NFL's most stable, high IQ coaches. If Miami goes the first-time head coach route, Minter could be a diamond in the rough. But here's the common theme across all these candidates: leadership, defensive strength, and proven ability to develop talent. Three things McDaniel has consistently struggled to deliver at a championship level. There's a reason the loudest voices calling for change aren't just frustrated fans. They're people who understand that this team's Super Bowl window is cracking open right now. The last thing Miami can afford is wasting another year in the name of continuity that leads nowhere. That's not to say moving on from McDaniel would be easy. He's done good things in Miami. The offense has lit up the scoreboard. Tua has looked his best under McDaniel's system, but the ceiling feels painfully clear. You can light up bad teams in September and October, but come January, when it's fourth and goal in a hostile stadium, McDaniel's decisions have repeatedly raised doubts. And that's when legacies are made or broken. Still, some fans argue that one more year, one final test with a healthy roster and a full offseason of preparation might reveal if McDaniel can evolve into the leader this team needs. And maybe, just maybe, the combination of McDaniel and a still affordable Tua is the best bridge to whatever comes next. But it's a gamble. One more year means postponing the inevitable if things don't click. And by then, the Dolphins might be looking at another wasted season, another round of staff turnover, and possibly missing out on prime head coaching candidates who get scooped up elsewhere. So here's the million-dollar question. If you're the new GM walking into Miami this January, with the future of McDaniel, Tua, and the direction of the franchise hanging in the balance, do you bet on continuity and give it one last shot? Or do you reset the board, bring in your own guy, and try to build something sustainable from day one? Let me know your answer in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, hit that subscribe button, smash that like, and check out the next video on the screen. We're just getting started covering this pivotal offseason for the Miami Dolphins.